take in consideration that both of our cars are leased, so that drive is getting us.
Yep.
But it's great.
We're in the same boat. Jen's is leased and mine, it's all electric, so I got to do electric, but I've been on the Delaware like 3 times for like 2 years old and stuff. It's like thousands of miles.
That's cool when you're putting one super complex bed together. Have twins.
You should have called me, I would have come done it.
Need more pieces than necessary for what that should be.
You haven't had to put together a Barbie dream house yet, have you?
At least I need one of those.
I'll get started now.
Yeah. A lot of little pieces.
All right, you guys ready? Good evening. I'd like to call the Rutland Town School Board February meeting to order at 6 p.m. Everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will accept a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Under staff and student highlights, unfortunately our principals are not here tonight, but I know that one of their intentions was to introduce our new student resource officer, Mark Perkins, so just wanted to say hello and welcome. Did you want to say a few words?
No, I didn't know if you had any questions for me. No, I'm getting my feet underneath me here, so it's an adjustment from having been at the Barracks for 20 years. Yeah.
How's it going so far?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no complaints. It's all good.
Well, welcome and thank you for taking that position.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Next up is old business, and we wanted to talk a little bit about budget communication. Louis and I have drafted the flyer, and that should be going out sometime next week, I think, over February break. But besides that, I just wanted to be able to have an open discussion about what other ideas we had of getting the news out there this time.
How many flyers are we getting? A lot?
I think they go to every resident, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Happy to go up to the transfer station. If I'm around.
Do you think
What days are they open? Just Saturdays, or is it Wednesdays too?
it's Wednesday and Saturdays?
Yeah, I can do Wednesday. Saturday's tough with hockey and skiing.
I think that the transfer station is definitely a good spot, but maybe just making sure our flyers up on the bulletin board might be necessary right now, I feel like, with the decrease in the budget. And how much conversation there was even last time when we were going through the revotes and everything else. I wasn't sure. I feel like it wouldn't be a very good use of our time. But I think if we have...
A lot of people asked if I needed a ride home.
Really?
Did you walk there?
No, they just didn't know why I was standing there, even though like,
Yeah.
I was standing there. That's the only conversation I got.
Because every voter will be getting the same letter.
Like I said, you guys don't have to. I'm happy to.
If you'd like to, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Colin.
Is there any other high traffic areas? Especially to clear up some maybe misinformation that's out there.
I was told that maybe having like a coffee hour over on the west side could be helpful. Posting it over there on Front Porch Forum. You could hold it in the school or hold it somewhere over there as an idea. Like just a coffee hour, just open house to anyone that had questions could come in and speak with a member.
So you said in the school?
It could be in the school, it could be at,
What school?
it could be this school. It
Oh.
doesn't- Yeah, if it's not on a weekend.
Are they,
I thought you said west side.
they doing a
Sorry.
open
No,
house?
on the west side.
Are they doing an open house up at the fire station?
I don't know.
No. You can do it over there. If they're doing an open house, there'll be a lot of people coming.
Mhm.
Seen something about that.
You saw something about that?
I thought I did, but I could just be making that up.
Happy to go to and or call into the select board, just so if people are watching that differently. That's it. Maybe they're watching on Peg TV, we hope. But just so they know, they can talk about it as well.
I'd be happy to try to hold like a coffee chat either at town hall if that's available or something like that on the week before town meeting. I think as long as it's just two of us or less, we don't need to warn it, but we could advertise it. So I could do that. And just advertise it over there and on Front Porch Forum.
Yep.
I'll look at doing that on maybe the Wednesday or Friday before. The 26th.
They're doing a open house when the weather is warmer.
Yeah, that's true.
I knew I saw it right at somewhere.
So I will hold a coffee hour over on in the west side. Anywhere else that we can touch, the Maples or Gables.
I can call them whatever. Whatever it's called.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one's the Rutland Town one.
Gables, I think.
Is it the Gables?
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to do a coffee hour somewhere else? Or do you think between Colin going to the select board and maybe going to the transfer station? And then my
When you have a
hour?
coffee house.
I was going to have it during the day.
Yeah.
So I don't work on Wednesday, so I could do that on 2/26. But could have another one somewhere else at a different time.
Some people have the flyers down for here for games and stuff.
You're just gonna say,
Oh,
sure,
sure,
the
yeah,
games
yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
Well, basketball games are over before break. What games?
Not all the rec stuff's over.
The rec is still continuing after.
Yeah, I don't know if they're at home.
They're doing it.
Jamboree.
Jamboree. I think that's it. Well, it's in rec. A lot of parents there. I mean, we're talking to parents, so.
Okay. That's helpful. Great. Good.
They can't hear us on there. I just got a message.
Someone's watching.
Katie McDougal just said,
I don't know why.
she said we can't hear every other word, or can only hear like.
We may just need to speak up.
Mike, can you hear better now? Maybe it's my computer in the way? Or the speaker? I don't see the speaker here. This is the Peg TV speaker, but there's like a little round one somewhere.
Peg TV. Here we go. How's that, Katie?
I hope it's better. Okay, good. Thank you for letting us know. All right. You're welcome. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. I just realized I did skip over teacher, staff, and community comments, if anybody had any before we move on. Okay.
I think about the budget, when we speak to people, we should remind people that the budget is not just for the school, that it's for pre-K through 12.
That's true.
Some people forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's helpful.
That is
And there are
information.
signs that could go out. I don't know if that's something you're interested in. I just wanted to mention that.
The ones that we've had before. Yeah. Usually Sarah will put out signs out
Yeah.
front of the school, so if anybody does want to pick up a sign, when hopefully maybe right after break,
And we just had to be clear in the past, the signs can just say,
vote.
remember to vote on, it cannot anyway say vote yes or vote, so just with merely stating fact, just to remind that voting is on March 5th. So, I do believe Sarah has signs that state just that.
It's on March 4th.
March 4th, sorry, yeah.
All right. Hopefully the signs say March 4th.
It's been a long day.
So if you're interested in picking up a sign and you don't see any outside the building after February break, please contact Sarah Tetzlaff. All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the warrants and the minutes.
So,
Thank you, Colin. On the January 14th minutes, I did have a small little grammatical typo that I had given to Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just have a few things. A lot of this is for your own reference tonight. I did mention this last week, but this February is the School Board Appreciation Month, and so I just wanted to publicly, on behalf of the GRCSU and staff, just to thank our 5 Rutland Town Board members for all their hard work. I know that many people just see them once a month, here at a meeting or out and about, but this is it really is a job that encompasses much more than that. A lot of conversations, just a lot of, whether it be just with myself or with staff or with community members, but it is a thankless profession, and it don't really receive a lot of thank you, but I just want to publicly say thank you to each of you for all your hard work, because it is a very difficult job. I know we talk all the time, make sure you're being fiscally responsible, but also making sure that our students receive a high-quality education. I do want to thank you all for, taking that on really on a very meager sum stipend. So, but thank you. So, and I also just want to say, thank you to Abby and to Tina, who will not be running anymore, but to thank you for your service, and I wish you all the best of luck, and I'm sure I still will see you around, but thank you. Also in the packets, there's a copy of the calendar. This will be the last time I'll say this, but it is a reminder, because I have had people still in emails. Yes, our February break is a week later next year. That is because we've moved to a statewide calendar, and yes, we are aware that Rutland City Schools still have President's Day off, but GRCSU does not. So we will be in school next year on President's Day, and then we'll have the week off after. So that should be highlighted there. But so I just wanted to make that clear for everyone. So there's been still some confusion. And there is a copy of the legislative reports from the VSBA. I uploaded that to the board resource folder for you. This is still early days in the legislative session, so there are a lot of bills that are just being proposed and thrown out there, so not a lot really to react to. Obviously the main issue, or the main thing that people react to is Governor Scott's proposal around education, and we're just seeing a lot of information being thrown around. And so, as I said last week, I just, would ask people to be informed, stay on top of things, just listen to what's going on, but at the same time is also, we don't need to necessarily panic, because there's still a lot of details yet to be rolled out about what that means for Rutland Town, for the GRCSU, as well as for the state of Vermont. So, but we'll keep the board posted as we have updates on that as well. So, but if any community member or parent ever has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to Sarah or anyone else, we're more happy to try to answer your questions as we can.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, principals report. Neither principal's here. Is there anything you wanted to highlight, Chris?
No, not, I mean, I won't go through and read it for you. I think it's all there. I know that I did speak with Sarah because there have been some questions around field trips, and so she is looking to plan meetings with families about the seventh grade families about future trips, what that may look like. So she'll have some more
Has it scheduled for tomorrow at 4:30.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Tina.
Hopefully she'll feel well enough to.
Yes, yes. And I heard Lifetime Sports is going well, so just want to just say thank you, and the weather has been kind of working in our favor. So, all right. Oh, I did have one more thing, because I do always get snow days. I just want to just quickly, I get complaints, I know, just, people can get up at 4:15 in the morning, just, check the weather with me, but snow days it's not as easy as people think. It's not like look out the window and decide you might want to go back to bed and snow day. It is, talking with road crews, you're looking at last week was obviously challenging because you look at the timing of the event and last week we could have probably got the kids into school, but then getting them home safely is another thing, and we always try to err on the side of caution. And I think it's if families are going to be upset with us because, we just trying to keep our staff and our students, safe, then that's fine. But as other districts start closing around us, then staffing becomes an issue as well. And I know there's some families said, well, hey, couldn't you, call the night before? Yes and no. I mean, I do get up and I do check it because, I know that staff don't like to hear this, students don't like to hear this, but I want people in school. I want kids in school. I think, continuity, I think it doesn't do anyone any favors. Snow day is great for everyone, but, I do get up early, check to make sure that the roads are safe and we can get kids in, and get staff in. But I know that there's more weather forecast for Thursday, so Thursday morning I'll be up bright and early, just wait and see what happens. But I understand the conflict that it caused, the problem that it caused families. They get a call at 5:15 in the morning that, school's been canceled for childcare and arrangement. I understand that. I'm a parent, but, like I said, we do try to weigh this all in consideration. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer them as best I can around snow days. But it's not a perfect science, so.
And I think it's also important to highlight that our supervisory union covers a pretty wide territory.
Correct.
So in Rutland town, it may be a very different story than in Poultney. And unfortunately, there's not really a way to very easily break that up.
That's a good point, Tina, because we do make one call for the whole. So in the morning, I'm calling road crews from Rutland town to Wells to Poultney. So each one of our towns, I'm talking the road crews, and you're right that what Middletown Springs is experiencing might be significantly different than, say, here in Rutland town. And so there may be some instances where we may call a snow day where, like, well, it's perfectly fine here, but for someone else in our region or at SU, it's not. And we also have to think about, we do have staff coming in from other areas too. So not all of our staff live right within town too. So we may be able to get the kids in, but can we staff the building too? That's another, thing we have to take into consideration. So, and we knew that would be a problem as soon as we saw other SUs and districts start to cancel school, that regardless of whether that it's going to be difficult for us to staff our buildings on Thursday. So it's much more than just snow on the ground sometimes. So.
Yeah, well, that was definitely the right call, because I drive bus, and to bring 50, 60 kids home at that time of day, wow, that would have been so nerve-wracking.
And an early dismissal would not have helped us at all on that day.
No,
either, so,
no.
I think
We've been right in the
And
middle.
that causes a more of a concern with
So,
the right call.
but like I said, I know I'm going to make some people happy, some people are going to be angry. It's part and parcel of the job. I understand that, but like I said, there's just a lot of factors, and if people want to, have any questions about that, feel free to reach out, and we're happy to try to explain the process.
I think, it's going to be much easier to make that day up when it's 65 degrees out versus...
Or 90.
Well, no, that's in the afternoon. That's the afternoon, 65 in the morning.
All Thank you very much. All right, I did have a question on the student activity account, and I had two questions. One, I was curious about the expenses that are going on for the HVAC. I know Kelly had kind of gotten back to us earlier this year about, they were working on making them safer or more economical or efficient. I don't remember what he was talking about, but it just seems like every month there's a huge amount. So I was just curious if any of that is related to what we're also hoping to do next year, or if it's separate. That was my question. And then my question on the activities one, which I don't see in my packet real fast, was the retirement party. Is that what, I was curious what that comes out of?
Retirement party?
Yeah, at the country club.
Good question.
And then my second question was, my other question was, are they planning on having something similar at the end of the year for the other retired teachers? Thanks. Anyone else? No? Okay. So I was informed that for our contract recommendations today that we do need to have a quick executive session. So I'd like to call a brief recess so that we can have that executive session now. I'll take a motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you, Colin, for personnel. All right, welcome back. I will take a motion to approve the contract of Colby Hescock for assistant principal.
So moved.
Thank you, Colin. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Congratulations, Colby.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Congratulations.
That's okay. Thanks.
The vacancies are in your packet. We are still, I think, interviewing for a school nurse and athletic director, maybe, and just gym teacher, not athletic director,
Is that right?
Yeah.
and paraeducator,
Physical education.
Yes, sir.
among other things. All right. Chair report. I don't have a whole lot to say, except it's been a pleasure working with you all. We still have one more meeting at town meeting on March 3rd. I have sent a note to Mary Ashcroft to request that we go first, given that we usually don't have a lot of audience participation, and we believe because we have a decrease this year that it will be a pretty quick conversation, so.
What are we doing?
That would be in the cafeteria, it will be actually in the library this time, because the audio is a little bit better, so we're gonna try it, the town meeting in the library at 7 p.m. Alrighty. All right, next up, I was responsible to report last month's VSBA webinar, which was on superintendent evaluation. As part of the executive committee of the GRCSU, we have come up with an evaluation plan so that it's more consistent from year to year. And it was just approved, the rubric and the plan were approved at our last meeting this month. Basically, what will happen is the local boards will be surveyed based on the superintendent rubric. Try to make it a pretty simple, straightforward survey that will capture, it'll ask yes or no questions and then ask for comments. And then that will be given to the GRCSU members from each local board to help them when they're filling out the actual rubric, so that they have some feedback from their local board to use there, as well as some comments to share. And then the Supervisory Union Board will complete the evaluation in June, at least this year, and then pass that on to Chris once it's all collated. And then they'll do a little reflection, see what worked, what didn't work, and go from there. In addition to surveying the local boards, the admin underneath Chris, as well as the principals, will all be surveyed as well on parts of the rubric and asked to give feedback as well. And that all that will be put together by the SU and shared with the executive committee, or by the executive committee with Chris. This does kind of follow what the webinar stated was important. However, there's two things that I've learned from this that maybe we could think about, or the SU members could bring back to the SU board. The first is that they recommend doing this at the end of late winter, early spring. And I think the benefit of that is that if you do it in, April, May for the local boards, sometimes you have new members that really don't have a lot to contribute, because they haven't spent a lot of time with the superintendent. If you do it at the end of their term, so January, February, then they've had, most of that whole year with him, and just, kind of see how things are. So it's just something to think about going forward if we want to move up the timeline a little bit. And then the other thing that it had suggested was that to make sure that the board does their self-eval as well, which is part of the new governance quality standards, or district quality standards. And we have done that in the past, and so that should be kind of included around the same time that the superintendent does their evaluation. They also recommended that we do that. There are check-ins that throughout the year, and that has been built in as well, to go over the goals that are developed after the evaluation is complete. The supervisory union will sit, whether it's the executive committee or the supervisory union itself, will sit with Chris and go through goals for the following year, and that's what informs your evaluation throughout the year. And just having little check-ins, basically formative assessments. How are we doing? Where are we at? What can we do to continue moving forward? So, any questions on that? Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Last up on my part is the board newsletter. So we do have about, I think, 17 or 18 subscribers.
Got that this weekend. I was very excited. I was like,
I did
"Hey,
add,
welcome to the board."
I did add all of the board members, so if you do not want to be on, please let me know. I'll unsubscribe you. But going forward, I won't be the person kind of managing it. So that's something that when you do your reorganization, to decide if that's going to be the chair's job, or if there's going to
be bylaws that said you can't be the newsletter.
True. Possibly. Yeah. Well, it depends what the stipend is.
You have such a knack.
So maybe I could help with it, but I will pass on that information when I find out who to give it to, or Greg Connors, I believe, has all the information too. So you can either reach out to me or to him. And I was curious if we wanted to put out any other memo before voting. I was planning to do one, remind them to vote. But is there anything else you want me to include in the next newsletter before town meeting day? Okay. So I'll just make sure they get out the vote. The other thing I just wanted to mention too, that throughout the year I've been putting our agenda link, small little summary of the agenda and our meetings on Front Porch Forum. And, doesn't cost any money, but because I'm not on the board anymore, I don't think I'm the person that's supposed to be doing it. So that might be something else just to discuss if, you know, you want to have a communication committee, or if you just want the chair to do it, or however you want to do it, but just to kind of keep up with that. Again, that's something I'd be happy to help with. It's just, it'll be a little bit more challenging because I don't get all the info ahead of time. But, it may not be an issue if I help with it, but just wanted to just to put that out there. All right. Next up, policy. We have 2 policies that were first reads. E17, behavioral threat assessment teams. And H4, the distribution of non-school sponsored literature in schools. Is there any discussion or motion on this? I will just add that H4 is the one that we had sent back to the supervisory board to ask them to take out some wording and just make it more straightforward. And this is the updated copy. Chris, just as a note, it looks like there's a little bit of formatting on it. Just looks like some extra indents on C 3, 4, 6, and 7, and then on D 4 and 3. Not sure what happened.
Christine and Eric check that.
Yep. All right, I will entertain a motion
Make a motion to send these through.
to second reads.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have 2 upcoming meetings. The first is March 3rd. The annual meeting will be meeting here at 7 p.m., hopefully presenting first, but I can't guarantee that at this time. The reorganizational meeting will also be in the library at 6 p.m. on March 11th. We plan to have a Fast Bridge update at that meeting. I would also like to add a future agenda item, even though I won't be here, just to ponder, whether it's in March or April, is just to have another update on Spanish. This is another year has gone through with kids having less Spanish than they used to have. And April 2nd is when Rutland High is coming in to talk to the students about what classes to select for next year. So all of their recommendations for what class they should be in for Spanish should be in by that date. So I think that that's probably a good time to talk about, you know, is it still 50% are being recommended for Spanish 2, or is it lower now because they have a little bit less schooling in 6th and 7th grade too? And then just to kind of reassess, is that still what we want? Is that the way we want our students to leave Rutland Town after having Spanish instruction from kindergarten through 8th grade? You know, is it important to offer them something that would actually get them to Spanish 2 and how to deliver that? So I just wanted to
Can I ask a question on it? Like, or have we heard from like parents that they're upset that their kid's not making it into Spanish 2?
I will say as a parent, my kids do not feel like they are prepared in Spanish leaving. And they wish they knew it better. But that's just my family.
Yeah.
I've heard from other families that their kid does not feel like they're not confident in Spanish whatsoever.
I just, like, from my personal experience, both of my kids just like the Spanish class, but neither of them have any desire, well, one of them has no desire to take Spanish in high school, you know, like, wants to do a different language maybe. So I just wasn't sure, like, what our, because we keep going back and looking at Spanish, like, what is the overall purpose, like?
I think the overall purpose is just to increase their exposure outside of Vermont, right?
Yeah.
Spanish is a very common language outside of Vermont. It's, I think, the second most spoken language in the U.S. And it's also, it's
Not
great.
Vermont, though.
Not Vermont, but it's good to
For being
prepare
honest.
kids for a global world. So,
No, I
and
know
on
the
top of-
purpose, I know what the purpose of us teaching the Spanish is, that's what I'm
On
saying.
top of that, colleges look for students to take 3 years of a language if possible, minimally 2. So giving them, helping the kids feel more confident before they go to high school, I think would increase the number of students that feel ready to do that or able to do that.
Yes, but what if I take Spanish since pre-K here, but I want to go into a different language? Like,
You can.
It still is
You can,
giving
but
you a
you-
great basis of a different language.
But if you don't feel like you learned a lot, you might also be bored and not want to.
I think it's cool that we
I-
offer it.
I think it's cool that we offer it, but I also think that, a few years ago, I believe the number was closer to 75% were recommended for Spanish 2, and now it's going down to 50%. And with less and less time that they're getting in 6th and 7th and 8th overall, will that number continue going down, and is that acceptable? We could, I'm not saying every student has to be ready for Spanish 2, but shouldn't those that want to be ready for Spanish 2? We're teaching it from at least kindergarten.
But we're also one of the only middle schools in the area that even teach it.
It's like grade school, not just middle school.
But, yeah,
I think a lot of the middle schools have some,
some sort of, but not like to get, not, but I'm just saying, like, from grade school. I meant more grade school all the way up.
right. But we are teaching it from grade school all the way up, and just about half of our students are ready for Spanish 2. So, I was just
Is it half that are ready for Spanish 2 or half that?
half that are
that
ready,
wanna
that are
take it?
getting recommended.
That are,
And,
but is that
and learning a
before or
foreign
after they
language is
talk to the
also really
kids?
good for the brain too.
Is that before or after they talk to the kids? Because
That's before they talk to the kids.
I've also heard that some that got recommended for Spanish 2 are not ready when they get there.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just asking.
I don't have the
know.
history of why we I'm a big fan of language. It'd be worth looking at exploring how we
How we
decide to
deliver
enroll
it.
just Spanish. I mean, computer science is a major language we should be teaching. It's a basis for the future. I remember back when I was in high school, we had online, kids were taking Russian, but we don't have a Russian teacher in high school, but there was an option to take it at the tech via virtual at the time, which in the 90s, so it'd be kind of worth seeing. I don't know how we landed on just Spanish.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Certainly it's Latin-based, and it would certainly help you with, if you want to go on to French, if you want to go on to Italian, but if you want to jump to Mandarin, Chinese, I'm not sure it's a good base, but yeah, I think it's definitely worth.
So I'll just leave it
Or-
as.
I think it's definitely worth having the conversation again about asking where we are at and all that.
My personal experience, and my kid's only gotten to 3rd grade, should we be working on deeper impactfulness? So he's gotten 10 minutes here and there he can't speak any of it. Should we be really more targeting that middle school age and getting them deeper immersed than
That's what I'm
the
saying
small
with the
amount they're
delivery,
getting? Because
Because there's only so much time the one person that's teaching it
Yeah.
can teach. And if we're doing it over kindergarten through 8th grade, then it limits the amount of time that they're able to do it in the later grades.
So that's my question is, like, because I think we just keep asking, well, how many people is there a plan? We're asking these questions, but what is the plan? Like, is the plan to eliminate Spanish altogether for Rutland town? is the plan to maybe have it only 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 5, 6, 7, and 8, so that they're getting more in depth? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we should have a plan first of what we, instead of just asking the question.
My plan
you know?
is I would love the goal to be to increase the number of students feeling confident and being ready for Spanish 2. How do you do that?
So that's what, like, so that's the question. Like,
Yeah.
so I think that's the bigger, like, the bigger thing we should be saying is, the pattern is that we're losing the amount of kids that are ready for, confident for Spanish 2
Two.
at the high school.
Mhm.
So the board needs to think about how do we mitigate that to increase the time? So is that looking at maybe pre-K, K1 don't get it, and we add more time to middle school? you know?
Exactly.
So I think that's like, we have to, I think there's a plan, because I feel like I had no clue why we kept asking this question.
And
You know what
I
I'm
think
saying, like, about,
when we asked Teresa Sunderland when she was here, she even said that it would be easier to teach them if she had the old kids more days of a week.
yeah,
right?
so,
So just looking at how to make that happen with the curriculum and making sure the kids are getting their reading time, their math time, their social studies, you know, and the flex time and everything else that makes the schedule tricky.
but I also think
But it's also, we need
Spanish is reading. I mean,
Yeah.
you're hitting reading standards in Spanish.
Mhm.
Like, I think we can be a little creative, but I think just asking that one question of how many people are ready, instead, I think we need to, like, again, have a plan of what do we want something different? And I think that's what we're looking at, is that Spanish we need more time for our 7th and 8th grade Spanish classes. Because I know, like, at Rutland Middle School, we go every day, all year long. They have a 55-minute class every day, all year long.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, here, we're only getting it, what, once a week?
I think they're getting it twice a week and
For kind,
about 2 times a week, 2 hours a week.
so,
This got to be a hybrid. It's got to also be for like for kids that want that, or for families that want that.
ours
I
is,
don't-
yes,
I
ours
don't,
is not.
I don't want 50 extra minutes of Spanish every day for my kid, but, so there's got to be a way to flex. I believe that we should be giving exposure to every kid, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's once a month going into seeing the younger kids, but, you know, if we're going to teach something here, we should have an avenue of exposure, but also a place where kids can excel, especially in a specific language, where, you know, if you want your kid to excel at sports, you have them go to rec, they go this, they get a little bit of exposure in broad-based physical education, but we shouldn't be saying, okay, now every kid's going to be taking 50 minutes 3 times a week, when, what about computers, what about another language that, you know, that's not Spanish-based? And maybe that's the flex time. I don't know the curriculum schedule, to be honest with you, but
I know the Rutland town has always been Spanish. And I'm like, we have another country up north, and it's like, we don't teach any of that language to go visit that country. That, to me, never made any sense.
I just think we need to have a purpose for asking the questions,
Mhm.
you know, so that people know that we're not looking to get rid of the Spanish program, because I think this conversation, it's like, are we trying to, like, axe the whole program? So just have, like, the purpose for asking the questions, I think, would go a lot.
So it sounds like we have some information as to where to direct the questions and for the board going forward. But I just wanted to bring it up as an agenda item. So thank you for entertaining the discussion.
yeah, I think that's a very important preface of, like, the last conversations I've been in, it seems like the department feels like they're coming under fire, so it's like, how do I justify
Yeah.
the position versus how do we maximize what we want to do with it, not
Exactly.
just, not walking into like the standoff of,
Yeah, I just don't want.
Right.
how do I keep my job?
I don't
It's
want
like-
Teresa to come in and give us,
Yeah.
like,
No, that's not
because
the-
she's like,
yeah.
oh my God, am I trying to save my job or
Exactly.
what? You know,
That's-
so, like,
yeah.
just give her a purpose. Like, I
Yeah.
just feel like that's more important.
Exactly,
important
well
for us.
put.
Absolutely. All right. Teacher, staff, and community comments. Anyone online or in the room have anything to add? All right. No more executive session is needed, correct, Chris? All right. Good and welfare.
We do new business?
We didn't have any. Did I miss it? Yeah, we didn't have any new
We
business.
don't do it at the end.
No. We skipped it because we didn't have any, it was before consent agenda.
Oh, well, I have some.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't want to take up too much time, but I know, and to bring it to you guys, at the SU board level, we brought it out in the open that obviously we presented a really good budget this year, so touching that, so we should see, unless there's a massive overhaul of the last piece of the formula, a pretty sizable reduction in property taxes for Rutland Town this year. We were able to build in a lot of building upgrades that needed to happen, HVAC, we're getting rid of finally all the asbestos with past surpluses, so that's good for the Rutland Town taxpayers. You guys should see a pretty sizable double-digit property tax decrease percentage-wise. So hopefully everyone knows that, keep perpetuating that in the communities, but obviously the Department of Ed / Governor came out with their proposed plan, which Chris alluded to at the beginning, that, you know, it's a lot of shock, and I don't know how many people are paying attention, obviously we are, but it's gathering all the headlines right now. Me personally, watching the VSBA, no one talked to me, but their response was just as bad as what Zoe came out with, in my opinion, but they're just blanketing that it's terrible. Obviously, the state needs a whole lot of overhaul. I don't agree with a lot of what Scott and Zoe were saying, but at the same point, digging your heels and saying it's terrible is not a good response to have. No one's really starting from the ground up at the SU level. We tasked Chris with reaching out to area SUs, SUPs, and maybe starting with board presidents and superintendents to, like, at least, and maybe they will, maybe they won't listen to us, but we got to band together and start pushing information north about what we think makes sense for our communities via small and, you know, the county, like, or else it's going to be dictated what happens to us, and a lot of it's going to be coming out of Chittenden County. So now is our time to be as active and be talking about this to our public, to say, what would you like to see happen? And the blunt reality is that consolidation's coming. Whether you're a big community or small community, a lot of small communities are still going to be like, oh, we can fight it. Like, we need to decide how we want to be consolidated. And it's not just going to be community against community. So, you know, I think we're doing the pragmatic thing, at least talking in countywide. But we should bring it up from our board to the SU board to the county about ideas and what we'd like to see happen. If not, it's going to look a lot like Hawaii or like what they're proposing to us.
So do you want to put that on the next agenda to talk
I think
about?
it's very important. I mean, you know, the soups are all talking to each other, but nobody in the department head's calling for us to see what works at the local level. And it's a massive amount of jobs. To get to this big $200 million number, you cut all the admin, it's like $17 million. You can do the math. So where's the other 160 coming from? These buildings don't disappear. So there's a lot of money and that's affecting our kids. I think we should be leading from what we want in the classroom, but also what makes sense, and bringing that forward. It's going to get probably pretty ugly. So at least we could be louder talking back to the room. The VSBA should be, you know, obviously it's a representation of us, but they have their own agenda too. So we got to at least kick in what we think Rutland Town or Greater Rutland Supervisory, because there's a very strong chance that this board doesn't sit here in 3 or 4 years. And we don't have a soup. Huh? In 18 months, I mean, that's their plan.
Thought it was 18 months.
But I think there's some things we could be talking about, and with consolidation, maybe it's a phase out too of, like, you know, Chris probably sees the writing on the wall, like, you know, consolidation is less superintendents, but was that, you're gonna axe 52 people, or plus the assistant supers, plus all that staff, or should we be looking at a pragmatic 3-5 year approach, make them consultants? They have a wealth of knowledge, and it's people's jobs and livelihoods. It's our economy too. Like, it's not the $186 million mostly, as we know, is salaries and jobs. So were they going to go to the private sector like Elon Musk would think? It doesn't exist. So if we don't come up with our own ideas, but it's got to start with us, but it's also got to recognize that we do need to have some sort of consolidation. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do now is that it shouldn't be one district or one city trying to lead the charge. It's really getting that, and what I've seen in my life is everyone fights. Small towns fight instead of, like, collaboration, and it's not just one person dictating what's going to happen. And that's all that's happening right now. So I think we should be talking about that at every board meeting. about what's going on out there. And I know we've talked over the last year about informing our legislators, but at the same point, they're representing the county, so we should be talking to the county as a whole and making sure we're ahead of it.
And communicating with our legislators that are up there, because we do have some on the education committees.
Yeah, we do, and I'll not say anything for the ones that are there, but when they came to us over the summer, like, oh, we're on break. Well, guess what? I don't think the zoning senators and the governor were on break for the last 7 months. They didn't come up with this plan the first day of session. There's stuff going on all year. You can't just wait till we show up and take a look around and see which way the wind's blowing. And that's what happened. That's exactly direct quote. Well, we're on break.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I think in 3 to 5 years, there won't be any boards we're talking 5 districts. We're talking a massive overhaul of everything in the state of Vermont. I mean, just look at the education system, but look at all the rest of the stuff. It's a disaster. So it's like, if we don't do something to change the direction we're heading right down the toilet. I mean, you look at, and what they want to do, and I totally get what they're saying, 5 districts, and it's gonna blow everybody's mind, but it's,
Snow days then.
but this is what they're doing down south. This is what they've done down south. There'll be statewide teacher contracts. That's the only way, I know, but this is the only
The Virgin
way
Islands, right?
that they're gonna be able to overhaul this system and make it better. I know it's crazy, I know.
I mean, we're here as a fiduciary for the taxpayer, but I'm also here to fight for my kids. We want to making education cheaper is not a hard topic. Take a look at Alabama. Take a look at Mississippi. You want to take cost per pupil down, but you can see the result. The average reading age in the United States of America is sixth grade. No wonder we can't decipher what's true and what's false. Like Vermonters and Rutland towners have a long history of caring about education, and it's expensive, but there's a reason people are here, putting their heart and soul into this education. But if we just want to talk about cost, it's like Jack Welch in the 90s. It's pretty easy to cut expenses by cutting people. It's not hard, but the outcome is not widgets and for-profit corporations. It's how much are we going to educate these kids to lead us into the future.
Changes are coming. If we could stop it, I don't know.
Let's stop it. That's the thing. I don't want to stop it. We just got to.
Well,
we want to design the change versus being dictated what the change is.
And the biggest
Let me
thing
part of
is
the
I'm
conversation.
concerned about is what's going to happen to our facilities. Everything else will, but it's like there's going to be a lot of places that are going to be closed, for sure. So, whether we bring the Chittenden kids down here, or what, everything's going to change massively, so.
So back to good and welfare.
Well, before one more, and then.
Oh, not yet.
Just kidding, just
Okay, well, so, to put it to Chris, I put it out to the senators, and we've come up, I think it just started last year with pre-K, and the busing issue. From my understanding, pre-K falls under human resources or human services versus the AOE. So as it comes to particular that age student riding buses, once you get over a certain amount of kids, you need aides per amount of kid, which is obviously not sustainable if we're trying to control budgets. And I asked Collmore in an email this week, we had a huge push for this pre-K, and we have a building associated here. We have multiple kids that are part of multi-families. Like, how do we tackle this seemingly easy issue? It's probably a bigger issue to bring pre-K under the Department of Ed versus where it is now. But for the busing standard to have families that I want, we have universal pre-K. You want these kids going there, but I can't put them on the bus. And who we bark up the tree. I know it's not. We can't fix it, but someone probably can fix it for us. Well, in theory.
I mean, a few years ago, there were a lot of discussion around pre-K, and I know they tabled that. They went to a they're going to, take a year off to kind of look, do a study, and because part of it was they were looking to make pre-K compulsory, and one of the issues that's, as I expressed, well, are you going to make kindergarten compulsory? Because right now kindergarten is not compulsory, and so they hadn't thought about that, and so then something else they needed to consider. But you're right, pre-K right now, and that was one of the things they did talk about was whether when you move pre-K under the AOE's, oversight and direction as well, as opposed to a different set of regulations, because pre-K does have a different set of restrictions in terms of from classroom, from transportation, and it's costly. And it's, if you look at it from a resource perspective about, you need individuals to monitor buses, to supervise buses, and so a lot of bus companies have said, well, we're not going to transport pre-K just because it's difficult to, because you're looking at seatbelts, you look at other, there's just a lot of other restrictions that are placed on it. And I'm not saying that's, that's safe transporting students, but, so this is part of, and I've explained this to to our senators when I spoke with them, is we tend to oversimplify very complex issues here in the state of Vermont, and we think, oh, we'll just figure it out, and there you go, and we make a mess of things. And I said we look at just our GRCSU. Here we are, 7 years still into our merger. We're still trying to figure out what this means, and we're still working through some kinks and some other issues. And so when we look at the large scale of consolidation, what that looks like, I have said, that I do believe it's coming. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but my concern is that we'll haphazardly just force this and move forward, and our kids will end up suffering. I'm not concerned about, what happens to, to my position, my job, but my concern really is, what does this look like for our kids moving forward? And you talk about, and I know you're asked about pre-K, but pre-K is a part of that in terms of, 3 and 4 year olds. We look at when we get some of our, bless you, some of our students that come into our pre-K or to our 5th grade, and we look at test scores. We're missing out on an opportunity to really to get 3 and 4 year olds into our schools and really kind of build foundational skills and to really reverse some of this learning loss but they don't know how to do it because it is cost. And we are one of the few SUs and school districts that do offer full day pre-K 5 days a week. Well, we're only required for 10 hours. And transportation is one of the things that, unfortunately, right now, that we just can't, we can't offer, which we like to do, but it would just shift what transportation looks like in our GRCSU. So, but once again, there are a lot of people, why can't you just do this? Not understanding it's, a lot of issues in education are very, like I said, they're very complex, and it's not just black and white. They're a gray area that we have to work through. So, it's not just because we don't want to, but it is problematic. So, and we'll see what the pre-K study that the state has been working on for the past year and a half, what they come up with. So,
Anything else, Colin?
Are you done?
Just trying to stretch out Tina's time.
That is not fair.
We have 2 hours.
Yeah.
So she
Tim?
cuts us off.
Code and welfare.
Yep.
Thanks for the past few years.
Oh.
Helping lead the charge. I think we made, small shifts. It's a pretty big ship to turn. So, just kind of take every little opportunity to, keep it centered in the right direction. I think so. Thanks for your efforts. And you, Abby, as well.
Back to me? Yeah. You joined with me, and I begged and pleaded, and you're leaving me. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your leadership, Tina. I think we've done a lot of good just in my 2 years here. I know you guys will still be involved. Maybe not sitting on the board, but it's in your nature to be there. So
I will not go on the slopes for lifetime sports.
your kids loving skiing, so I've done my job. Lifetime Sports is going great. Again, the atmosphere in the school, from kids to paras to admin to staff, is just great when you walk in this building. And that's always good in welfare, so. But again, thank you too, this last meeting.
Chris, mine's for you. Your snow day, saying that you make the call. My youngest believed it was him who made the call. It was the first time ever he's done the inside out and backwards pants. And the two, my wife also did it with him because they thought it was funny. And they both got a snow day, and I did not do it. And I walk in the door, and he goes, "You probably wish you had your jammies on backwards and inside out last night." I was like, "Yes, I do." So you did not. He took all credit for it. He even had his sister high five him because
You'll have to let him know, with credit also comes the blame. So, I'll pass all those on to
So
him.
he was really upset Friday
Yes.
when he wore it inside out and backwards, and you did not call the day, and we had to explain to him it only works if there's a big snowstorm coming. So
That's right.
that was a little tough, but
Yeah,
so just send the phone calls to him. From now
okay,
on.
all right. All right, we'll tell Bill Olson also, he wears clothes inside out as well. So.
Yeah, right. No, it's
My optometry bill got introduced in the Senate floor today, so I was pretty excited about that.
That's
When we
awesome.
get there. So I will be busy with that over the next few months, but I will still be around, and I have appreciated my time here. Appreciated working with all of you, and Chris, you've been great to work with, so thank you.
Yeah, just to go back to the lifetime sports thing. I've been driving bus, taking the skaters, and these kids, they get off the bus, they're just like so excited, and then they get on the bus, and it's like you don't hear a peep out of them. They're so tired,
Okay.
but it's such a good tired. They get on there in such, and it's like, I'm so glad we brought this back. It is something I think the kids enjoy, the staff kind of enjoys, and I really think this was a great thing to bring back, something we all should be proud of, you know. And I remember us having a conversation back when I worked here. I said, well, maybe we'll be on the board together sometime. And it's been an honor, really has. Thank you very much, and thank you, Abby.
And with that, at 7:32, 28 minutes before my cutoff time,
I still gotta go to the minutes, so I gotta average all your time.
adjourn the meeting since we're at the end of the agenda. Thank you all.